The Armada in the void. The first sign wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a signal. It was silence. Out beyond Pluto's orbit, where the sun was nothing more than a bright star in a sea of black, listening station Kestrel 9 stopped transmitting. There was no distress call, no power surge, no system failure. One moment, it was there, monitoring gravitational drift along the outer system, and the next, it simply ceased to exist in the network. At first, mission control assumed routine malfunction. Deep space was unforgiving. Equipment failed. But then Kestrel 12 went quiet. Then Kestrel 3. Then all of them. One by one, the outer sentinels of humanity's early warning system disappeared into perfect, unnatural silence. When engineers pulled the final transmission logs, they found something impossible. Each station had recorded the same anomaly in the seconds before blackout. A ripple in space-time, not a wave, not a distortion caused by gravity wells or stellar mass, but a pattern, precise, ordered, artificial. Within hours, observatories on Luna and in Earth's orbit confirmed the truth humanity had feared for generations but never truly believed would happen. Something was entering the solar system, and it was massive. Telescopes strained to resolve the shapes emerging from deep interstellar darkness. At first, analysts thought it was a sensor error, light scattering across debris clouds. Then the shapes sharpened. Ships, thousands of them, arranged in a formation so vast it stretched across millions of kilometers. They didn't burn engines. They didn't leave ion trails. They simply appeared, like predators stepping out of shadow. Panic did not erupt immediately. Humanity had grown used to cosmic discoveries, asteroids, rogue planets, even strange radiation storms. But this was none of those. The objects moved with intent, and they were heading inward, toward the sun, toward Earth. Within minutes, every major government was alerted. Defense networks shifted to standby. Civilian channels were restricted. Public statements were drafted, softened, revised. Unidentified celestial objects detected beyond the Kuiper Belt. It was the kind of lie meant to delay fear. But in the war rooms buried beneath oceans and mountains, no one was pretending. High-resolution scans began painting a clearer picture of the approaching fleet. The ships were enormous. Some rivaled small moons in size. Their surfaces were smooth but fractured with layered geometric plating, as if grown rather than built. Energy readings pulsed across their hulls in rhythmic patterns, alive with power beyond anything humanity had ever harnessed. And then came the realization that chilled every analyst in the room. These were not exploration vessels. They were not diplomatic envoys. They were weapons. Every scan revealed systems designed for destruction, gravitational emitters capable of destabilizing planetary orbits, stellar ignition arrays, matter disassembly beams. This wasn't an invasion fleet. It was an execution fleet. The formation alone made that clear. There were no troop carriers, no supply chains, no signs of colonization infrastructure. This armada was not meant to conquer Earth. It was meant to erase it. For 12 hours, humanity watched. The fleet emitted no signals, no greetings, no threats, no demands. It did not slow as it crossed the outer boundaries of the solar system. It did not respond to humanity's attempts at contact. It moved with terrifying certainty, like something fulfilling a task it had performed many times before. And then, they saw the scale. As the Armada passed Neptune's orbit, new sensor angles revealed vessels hidden behind the first wave. There were more, far more, enough to eclipse the combined mass of every human-made spacecraft ever launched. In Earth's United Defense Command, the room fell silent as the final projections appeared. If the fleet reached Earth orbit, there would be no battle, only extinction. Across the planet, emergency protocols were activated in secret. Strategic bunkers were stocked. Orbital defense platforms warmed from dormancy. Fleets were mobilized from hidden docks beneath oceans and lunar craters. But deep down, humanity understood a brutal truth. They could not win this at Earth. Earth was too fragile, too precious, too exposed. Then a voice cut through the tension inside the command chamber. Mars Defense Command. Their transmission was calm. Steady. Earth Command. You are advised to stand down. Orbital escalation. A general frowned. Stand down? They're inbound. Mars replied without hesitation. The Armada will not reach Earth. Silence followed. Explain, Earth demanded. There was a pause, long enough to draw every eye to the central display, showing the alien fleet advancing through the dark. Then Mars spoke again. For 70 years, Mars has not been a colony. New data began appearing on Earth's command screens, classified files unlocking in real time. Orbital schematics, weapon platforms, asteroid modifications, buried reactor networks beneath Olympus Mons, hidden installations stretching across the Martian surface. Earth's leadership stared in disbelief. Mars had not been terraforming. It had been fortifying. A final message followed. The line will be held at Mars orbit. As the alien armada advanced deeper into the solar system, humanity realized something for the first time since the fleet appeared. They were not waiting to die. They were preparing to fight. And the battlefield would not be Earth. It would be the red world waiting ahead. Mars. The red line. Mars had never truly been about survival. That was the lie told to taxpayers, to media networks, to school children watching documentaries about humanity's next step into the stars. Terraforming. Research. A second home for mankind. All it was true, and none of it was the real reason Mars had become humanity's most heavily funded off-world project. Mars wasn't built to be lived on. Mars was built to be fought from. For 70 years, cargo manifests had listed atmospheric processors, water extractors, agricultural modules, and habitation domes. Buried beneath those legitimate shipments were others, unlisted, compartmentalized, and known only to a handful of strategic planners on Earth and Mars. Reactor cores, mass driver components, gravitic stabilizers, autonomous drone foundries. Mars had become humanity's quiet insurance policy against the universe they did not trust. Now that policy was being cashed in. As the alien armada crossed the orbit of Uranus, Mars Defense Command initiated Protocol Aegis. Across the Martian surface, systems long thought dormant began to wake. Deep beneath Olympus Mons, fusion cores that had never powered a single civilian structure surged to life. Their energy did not flow into cities or terraforming grids. It flowed outward into weapons buried kilometers beneath regolith and rock. On Phobos and Deimos, maintenance stations unfolded into something far more dangerous. Mass drivers rotated into firing position. Sensor spires extended like metallic thorns. Hidden compartments opened, releasing clouds of dormant microsatellites into Martian orbit. To the casual observer, Mars still appeared as it always had, rust-red, quiet, distant. But in orbit, a new structure was forming. A net. Invisible to conventional detection, the Aegis network spread outward from Mars into the surrounding void. Asteroids that had drifted peacefully for millennia shuddered as concealed engines activated within them. Hollowed decades earlier, they now revealed their true purpose. Each was a weapon. Each was aimed. Back on Earth, military analysts watched the transformation with a mixture of awe and unease. Entire systems had existed without their knowledge. Entire fleets had been constructed without public oversight. Mars was no longer a colony. It was a fortress, and it was humanity's only chance. Meanwhile, the alien armada continued its advance. It did not react to Mars' awakening. No probes were dispatched. No change in formation occurred. It was as if the armada already knew Mars was there and simply did not care. The fleet moved past Saturn with the same calm inevitability. When it reached Jupiter's orbit, Mars Command made its first move. From a shadow of Phobos, a single projectile was launched. It carried no warhead, no guidance system, no explosive payload. It was a rod of dense alloy accelerated to a fraction of light speed by one of Mars' hidden mass drivers. A kinetic strike designed to test, to provoke, to learn. The projectile crossed millions of kilometers in seconds and struck the outermost alien vessel. For a brief moment, Hope surged in every human command center. Then the hope died. The rod impacted and vanished. No explosion, no debris, no damage. Sensors recorded a ripple across the ship's surface, like a drop of rain striking water. The projectile had been absorbed, or erased. Mars Command did not panic. Instead, they adjusted. Shield interaction confirmed, one technician reported. Energy dispersion field beyond predicted tolerances. Earth Command listened in silence as Mars prepared a second strike. Before they could fire, the alien Armada responded. A single vessel shifted position. No weapons deployed. No visible energy surge. But space itself bent. A gravitational pulse expanded outward from the ship, moving silently across the void. Within seconds, it reached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter and erased it. Thousands of rocks, some kilometers wide, collapsed inward, crushed by tidal forces before being torn apart at the atomic level. The effect lasted less than 3 seconds. When it ended, the belt was gone. Not scattered. Gone. Humanity watched as an entire region of space was reduced to dust. The message was unmistakable. This was not a war the aliens expected to lose. But something changed in that moment. Fear did not vanish, but hesitation did. Mars Command issued a system-wide directive. All Aegis platforms, full activation. Across the Martian sphere of influence, stealth satellites powered up. Drone carriers released their swarms. Railgun arrays hidden within drifting rock locked onto targets. Orbital mirrors adjusted their alignment. Mars was no longer preparing. Mars was committing. Earth's final transmission to Mars was simple. Hold the line. Mars' reply came instantly. The line is already drawn. Beyond them, the alien Armada crossed the distance between Jupiter and Mars without altering speed. It did not accelerate. It did not deploy additional weapons. It simply advanced. Closer, closer, toward the red planet that now stood between it and Earth. For the first time since the fleet had appeared, humanity was no longer watching helplessly. They were waiting, and Mars was ready. 11 minutes of war. The distance between Mars and the approaching Armada closed in silence. No declarations, no ultimatums, no attempt at communication. The alien fleet moved forward with the calm certainty of something that had never been stopped before. Mars waited. Across the planet's orbit, the Aegis network held position, silent, invisible, lethal. Every weapon remained cold, every drone dormant. Humanity had learned long ago that the first move often decided the war. So they waited until the Armada crossed the boundary Mars had drawn, 80 million kilometers from Earth. The moment the lead alien vessels entered the engagement sphere, Mars Defense Command gave a single order. Execute. Space erupted. From within the hollowed remains of drifting asteroids, mass drivers fired in synchronized volleys. Thousands of tungsten lances screamed through the void at relativistic speeds, each one capable of shattering continents. At the same time, dormant satellite clusters ignited, releasing swarms of autonomous combat drones. They spread outward in coordinated formations, surrounding the alien fleet like a tightening storm. Solar mirrors pivoted into alignment, capturing sunlight and bending it into coherent beams aimed toward the Armada's flanks. Humanity did not attack with a single strike. They attacked with everything. The alien response was immediate. Shields flared across the Armada, rippling with iridescent light as kinetic rounds struck and vanished against invisible barriers. Several human projectiles slipped through gaps in the defensive fields, slamming into smaller escort vessels. The results were modest. One ship spun out of formation. Another lost propulsion. But the fleet did not stop. It did not retreat. Instead, it adapted. Gravitational emitters along the hulls of the largest ships began to pulse. The battlefield warped as localized distortions bent the trajectories of incoming projectiles. Human volleys curved away from their targets. Drone swarms fractured as invisible forces tore them from formation. Then the Armada advanced. They did not waste time with precision strikes. They answered with annihilation. A wave of energy, silent and unseen, expanded from the fleet's core. Where it passed, drones collapsed into molten fragments. Asteroid weapons disintegrated mid-flight. Even a vacuum itself seemed to shudder as space-time trembled under the force. Mars Command responded instantly. Phase 2. Humanity changed tactics. Instead of striking the largest vessels, they targeted the smallest. Instead of overwhelming shields, they sought their blind spots. Drone swarms divided into thousands of independent units, slipping between gravitational distortions. Railgun batteries shifted fire patterns unpredictably. Human ships, small, fast, and expendable, charged into the edges of the alien formation, forcing defensive systems to spread thin. For the first time, alien ships broke formation. A support vessel erupted into fragments under sustained fire. Another lost its shield envelope as drones overloaded its energy nodes. The fleet continued forward, but now it was reacting. And that was enough. Mars Command initiated Project Helios. Across Martian orbit, the massive solar mirrors completed their alignment. Invisible lines of reflected sunlight converged across millions of kilometers, focusing into a single point. The sun itself became the weapon. A beam of unimaginable intensity lanced across the void and struck the alien command vessel at the heart of the formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shields failed. Light tore into the vessel's surface, burning through layered armor in seconds. The ship attempted to shift position, but the beam tracked its movement flawlessly. Secondary alien ships moved to intercept, but human railguns cut them down before they could interpose. The command vessel shuddered. Energy readings spiked. Then it split open. The explosion was not dramatic. There was no fire and vacuum. Only a sudden bloom of debris and a cascade of failing signals across human sensors. The effect on the Armada was immediate. Formation cohesion vanished. Ships began maneuvering independently. Gravitational pulses lost synchronization. Defensive fields flickered. Mars Command seized the moment. All units, full engagement. Humanity unleashed everything it had held in reserve. Nuclear-tipped antimatter torpedoes streaked toward isolated targets. Drone swarms converged on crippled ships. Kinetic strikes rained down without pause. One by one, the alien vessels fell. Some detonated under sustained assault. Others tore themselves apart under destabilized gravity systems. Within minutes, the unstoppable Armada became a battlefield of drifting wreckage. The engagement had lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, Mars still stood untouched, and the alien fleet, once vast enough to erase worlds, was gone, destroyed before it could ever reach the Red Planet. In the silence that followed, humanity realized something profound. They had not merely survived. They had won. The message in the silence. The battle ended as suddenly as it began. One moment, space between Mars and Jupiter had been alive with motion, drones, projectiles, energy distortions, dying ships. The next, it was quiet again. Not peaceful, not safe, just still. Debris drifted where the alien Armada had once advanced in perfect formation. Massive hull fragments tumbled slowly through the void, their surfaces dark and inert. Faint energy discharges flickered and died as shattered systems bled out their final reserves. Mars remained untouched. Earth remained alive, but no one celebrated, because victory was only the first question. Understanding was the second. Recovery operations began within the hour. Autonomous salvage drones moved cautiously into the debris field, scanning for active systems, hidden traps, or delayed weapon responses. Human command knew better than to assume the threat had truly ended. Yet the wreckage did not resist. It simply floated. As data began to stream back to Mars Command, analysts realized something unsettling. These ships had not been built for negotiation. They had not even been built for war in the way humans understood it. They had been built for a task, a single, efficient purpose: extermination. There were no living quarters, no command bridges in any traditional sense. Control systems were centralized and hierarchical, designed for obedience, not creativity. This was not a fleet that explored. It was a fleet that ended civilizations. Then came the most important discovery. From the shattered remains of the command vessel destroyed by Project Helios, salvage drones recovered a partially intact communication core. Unlike the rest of the ship's systems, it was heavily shielded, not against attack, but against loss. It had been meant to survive. When technicians began decoding its contents, they expected navigational data or targeting logs. Instead, they found records, logs of prior deployments, thousands of them, world cataloged, civilizations measured, threat levels assigned, and then silence. Each record ended the same way. A confirmation, compliance achieved, threat eliminated. The Armada that had entered the solar system was not unique. It was one of many. Humanity had not faced an isolated enemy. They had faced a system. Further analysis revealed transmission protocols, standardized signals sent before and after each extermination. A chilling realization spread through the command centers on Mars and Earth. The fleet had not come to conquer. It had come to execute a sentence. And now, it had failed. Worse still, its silence would be noticed. Somewhere beyond human detection, beyond even the range of their most advanced sensors, something monitored these fleets. Something that expected reports. And when this one did not return, questions would follow. Earth's leaders gathered in emergency session. For the first time since the Armada's arrival, the debate was not about survival. It was about response. Some argued for silence. Hide, rebuild, prepare quietly, and hope humanity remained beneath notice. Others saw the truth. It was already too late for that. Humanity had destroyed an extermination fleet. If there was a system behind it, then humanity was no longer a potential threat. They were a proven one. Mars Command offered a third option. Not silence, not surrender. A message. Using the recovered communication core, scientists worked to reconstruct the fleet's outbound signal protocols. It took days to understand the structure, alien mathematics layered over unfamiliar logic systems. But eventually, they succeeded. A transmission channel opened, one that pointed not to any known destination, but outward, to wherever the fleet had been meant to report. Earth hesitated. Mars did not. The decision was made. Humanity would answer first. The message was simple. Not a threat, not a declaration, just truth. The signal was transmitted using the alien system itself, formatted in the language of extermination reports. Where confirmation of success should have been, humanity placed a different outcome. Engagement failed. Threat persists. Then, beneath it, a final edition in translated form. We are still here. The signal vanished into the darkness between stars. No response came. Not immediately. But that was expected, because whatever waited beyond the void would now know something it had never known before. A target had survived, and fought back. As Mars expanded the Aegis network beyond its original boundaries, and Earth began constructing fleets no longer meant only for defense, a quiet understanding settled across humanity. The battle before Mars had not been the end. It had been the introduction. Somewhere out there, others had watched civilizations fall without resistance. Others had trusted in fleets that never failed. Now they would learn something new. Humanity was not prey. And next time, they would not be waiting at the edge of Mars. They would be ready far beyond it.